Think back over the last years. How many times did you say, everything will work out, but inside you were not convinced? You hoped, but hope without law is nothing but a soft wish, and the world does not obey wishes. It obeys the man who becomes definite, disciplined, and decided. Look honestly at the moments when things fell apart. The bill that arrived at the worst possible time. The opportunity you wanted, slipping into the hands of someone less capable. The argument at your dinner table that left you wondering if your family still believed in you. These moments were not random punishments, they were warnings, warnings that life does not arrange itself kindly for the man who drifts. Yet notice something else. There were also moments where something worked out in your favor, when you moved with conviction, even briefly, and life opened. You made a decision with clarity, and the right person appeared. You spoke with belief, and doors opened where none existed. Those moments showed you the truth you have been blind to. Life bends when you bend yourself. Most men never understand this. They wait for life to behave before they behave. They wait for calm before they act. They wait for confidence before they decide. That is why they spend their years watching younger, bolder men walk past them into the very success they once believed belonged to them. And nothing stings like watching another man live your dream. Consider the effect this has had on your household. Think of the evenings when you sat at the table speaking about your plans, only to watch doubt flicker in the eyes of the person who loves you most. Not because she does not believe in you, but because she has heard your promises before. She has watched you rise with the morning sun and fall back into the same habits by nightfall. Think of your children. They study you far more than they study their books. They see when you carry yourself with purpose, and they see when you shrink beneath the weight of your own hesitation. And in your quiet moments, you fear the thought that they may inherit your doubt instead of your potential. And then there are your rivals, the men who once stood beside you, who now stand ahead. They greet you with polite smiles, but their eyes reveal what they think, that you are a man who talks grandly, but accomplishes little. Their success does not hurt you because you envy them. It hurts because you know you are capable of more. But all of this can change with a single decision. A man becomes powerful the moment he refuses to leave outcomes to chance. The moment he declares, everything works out for me because I will make it so. This is not arrogance, this is obedience to law. Hill proved again and again that life answers definiteness with obedience. Listen carefully to this. Every time you believed things would work out, but they did not, the fault was not with the universe. It was with the weakness behind the belief you wished instead of commanded. You hoped instead of decided. You waited instead of acting. Faith without action is like a torch without flame. It looks useful, but brings no light. Real faith is not soft. Real faith is a hammer. It strikes, it shapes, it commands. And when a man learns to move with that kind of faith, life begins to align in ways that others call luck. Luck is nothing but law in disguise. Law responding to the man who finally refuses to drift. Picture the version of yourself who no longer clings to survival. The man who walks through his home with the stature of one who knows where he is going. Imagine the look on your partner's face when she sees that you no longer speak of your goals with trembling hope, but with the calm certainty of a man who has already claimed them. Imagine your children watching you rise with discipline instead of excuses. Imagine giving them a father who proves that life is not something to be feared, but something to be shaped. One day they will say, everything works out for me, because they saw it work out for you. That is legacy. That is leadership. And imagine your rivals then. The men who once dismissed you will begin to watch you with caution. They will notice the shift in your tone, the steadiness in your movements, the clarity in your decisions. They will feel even before you speak that you have become a man who is no longer tossed by circumstance but guided by intention. But this future will demand something of you. It will demand that you release the idea that life is meant to treat you kindly without your participation. It will demand that you abandon the belief that fortune is delivered to those who wait patiently. The world respects only the man who stands, speaks, and moves with authority. You must become the kind of man who does not merely hope for things to work out, but insists upon it. You must speak your desires aloud until your subconscious accepts them as commands. You must act with such direction that confusion flees from your presence. And when setbacks arise, you must remain unmoved, knowing that even apparent failure bends toward the man who does not surrender. Say to yourself now with firmness, not with fragility, everything works out for me because I make it work. Feel the weight of those words. Feel the responsibility inside them. Feel the truth that you have avoided for years, that life is not cruel. Life is obedient. It will deliver whatever you demand with enough definiteness and enough persistence. You are not here to be a spectator in your own story. You are here to shape it. You are here to rise above the fears passed down to you, above the doubts spoken around you, above the habits that once betrayed you, and if you will listen to the laws you are about to hear, you will soon become a man whose entire existence stands as proof that everything does indeed work out when the man works. This is your moment. The moment you stop waiting for things to fall into place and begin placing them yourself. The moment your family sees the return of the man they always believed you could be. The moment you step into the role you were meant to claim. Make life work out, not by chance, but by command. Part 1. The law that makes life bend in your favor. I have watched men wander through life believing that hope alone would rescue them. Yet hope without definiteness is nothing but a silent confession of weakness. Life does not bend for the man who wishes. Life bends for the man who decides. The moment a man becomes definite, he calls into motion laws that the idle man never discovers. A man wastes years, sometimes decades, because he drifts. Drift is not a single choice. It is the absence of choice. It is the mind waiting for life to become simple, when life is waiting for the man to become strong. Every year a man remains indefinite. He loses opportunities that would have obeyed him had he acted with purpose. The law that governs success is not hidden. It is simple. Outcomes obey the man who decides they must. This is not arrogance. It is obedience to the same principle that governs every triumph in human history. A clear decision backed by unwavering action produces results that seem miraculous to those who live by hope alone. Look at Henry Ford. His rise did not come from genius or favorable conditions. It came from a decision that left no place for retreat. He did not wonder whether his idea would work. He declared that it would, and the world obeyed. Decision shaped his fortune long before steel or machinery played their part. Consider Andrew Carnegie. He rose from poverty not because life favored him, but because he held an image of his future so clearly that every action he took was pulled toward it. Carnegie decided. Carnegie acted. Carnegie persisted. And life bent beneath the weight of his definiteness. Think of Edison, who refused to consider failure even when thousands of experiments did not yield results. His decision was so firm that the world could not help but submit to his will. The electric light was not the product of chance. It was the product of definiteness, enforced by relentless action. Hope is a soft thing. It comforts the idle man but strengthens nothing within him. Hope says, I wish. Faith backed by action says, I will. Only one of these produces movement. Hope soothes the drifting soul. Faith commands the advancing one. A man who wants life to work out for him must abandon hope and embrace command. Responsibility shortens the path more than talent ever could. A man who takes full responsibility for his results saves himself 10 years of wandering. When he says, I am the cause of my fortune or misfortune, he places his hands upon the levers of destiny. Responsibility removes the illusion that he must wait for life to improve. Inner authority always precedes outer achievement. A man cannot command the world until he commands himself. He cannot direct circumstances until he directs his thoughts. When a man becomes master of his own mind, life recognizes him as one who is permitted to lead. His decisions carry weight, and weight creates influence. When I say that everything works out, I do not speak of luck. I speak of law. Life arranges itself around a man who arranges himself around purpose. This is the same law that elevated the great builders of industry, the great leaders of nations, and the great creators of progress. Their success was not fortunate. It was earned by obedience to mental law. The mind must be instructed repeatedly. A single declaration cannot change a man's destiny. But repetition, direct, emotional, unwavering repetition, turns belief into subconscious command. When a man says each day, "Everything works out for me because I make it work," he is rewriting the blueprint of his character. Drift steals a decade. Definiteness returns it. Decision steals another decade from the control of circumstance. Purpose gives it back. A man who becomes definite in thought can save 10, 20, even 30 years of his life. The world calls this luck, but luck is merely law expressed through decisiveness. When a man is definite, his days gain direction. His steps gain force. His speech gains authority. People begin to respond differently. Doors open more easily. Opportunities come into view. Even his posture shifts. He moves through life not as a wanderer, but as a builder. This is the outward expression of inward law. The reason life has not obeyed you thus far is simple. Your decisions have been unclear, your purpose uncertain, your belief incomplete. Life cannot respond to vagueness. It cannot obey indecision. It aligns itself with the man who instructs it, not the one who waits politely for its approval. A clear aim saves years. A man who knows what he wants moves faster than a man who waits to feel ready. Readiness is the illusion that steals a lifetime. The world favors the man who acts while others hesitate. Ford was not ready when he began. Carnegie was not ready. Edison was not ready. Yet they acted, and readiness grew around them. Once a man becomes definite, others begin to see him differently. They may not understand the cause, but they feel the change. His family senses steadiness instead of uncertainty. His colleagues sense direction instead of wandering. His rivals sense danger instead of weakness. The rising man does not become louder. He becomes clearer. When a man decides that everything will work out, he does not wait for conditions to become favorable. He makes them favorable through effort, discipline, and loyalty to his aim. The world respects the man who advances without permission. It bends for him because he bends himself to law. Life bends for the disciplined. It bends for the persistent. It bends for the man who speaks with authority. It bends for the man who refuses to drift. This bending is not mystical. It is mechanical. It is the result of cause and effect, mind over matter, decision over delay. Repeating a commanding idea trains the mind to obey. When you say, "Everything works out for me," and insist upon it daily, your subconscious begins reorganizing your beliefs, habits, and reactions. Soon you act in a way that makes success inevitable. Success follows the man who behaves as though it is already certain. Definiteness shortens the road to destiny. Indecision lengthens it. Drift turns miles into decades. Decision turns decades into days. A man who decides today will accomplish more in 1 year than a drifting man accomplishes in 10. This is not exaggeration. This is law. Say to yourself now, "Everything works out for me because I make it work." Say it with firmness. Say it until your voice gains weight. Say it until doubt retreats. Say it until your subconscious accepts it as truth. A man becomes the words he repeats with conviction. You have wasted enough years waiting for luck. Luck is an excuse created by those who fear responsibility. The man who becomes definite carries his own fortune. He creates his opportunities. He shapes his circumstances. He commands his results. Life will bend in your favor the moment you bend your thoughts in the direction of certainty. The man who knows his aim and refuses to drift will soon find that life has become his servant instead of his master. Say it again and let it shape your spirit. Everything works out for me because I make it work. You are now prepared for the next stage, becoming the man life cannot resist. Part 2, Becoming the Man Life Cannot Resist. I have witnessed throughout my life that opportunity is far less selective than men imagine. Opportunity does not choose the educated over the uneducated, nor the wealthy over the poor, nor the favored over the forgotten. Opportunity chooses only one type of man, the one whose presence declares without a word that he is ready to receive it. Life cannot resist a man who carries himself with certainty. Certainty is not arrogance. It is not the loud speech of the insecure. It is the quiet, unmistakable steadiness that comes from a man who knows where he is going. This posture of certainty is felt long before it is spoken. A man may enter a room and say nothing, yet his bearing communicates intention, clarity, and resolve. Opportunity notices such a man. A man becomes magnetic, not through charm or cleverness, but through disciplined thought. Thought shapes posture. Thought shapes voice. Thought shapes action. When his inner world is ordered, his outer world aligns itself with his will. The magnetic man is simply the one whose mind pulls his surroundings into harmony with his aim. Most men wait for confidence. They believe they must feel strong before they act. This mistake has stolen years from them. Confidence is not given by the world. Confidence is manufactured by action. A man becomes confident only after he forces himself into motion. Confidence is the reward, not the prerequisite. Men lose entire decades waiting for a feeling that would have arrived had they simply acted. Confidence grows when a man decides, when he moves, when he commands himself, even while trembling. The world never grants confidence to the hesitant. It gives confidence to the one who behaves as if he already possesses it. Look at Abraham Lincoln. His certainty was not born of ease. It was born of responsibility. He walked with the gravity of a man who carried the fate of a nation in his mind. Even when criticized, attacked, and misunderstood, he did not waver. That steadiness, quiet, unpretentious, immovable, became the force that held the nation together. Observe Rockefeller. His calm was legendary. In times when others panicked, he walked with composed authority. Men trusted him because he trusted himself. His decisions were clear because his mind was orderly. His presence compelled others to lean upon him. He became irresistible to opportunity because he represented stability in a world of chaos. Consider Charles Schwab. His boldness was not noise, it was a quality of spirit. He approached industry titans not as a servant, but as an equal. His certainty made him welcome in circles far above his origins. Men recognized that Schwab expected success, and therefore he received it. Opportunity met him halfway because he stepped forward with assurance. Life follows the man who walks with intention. When a man drifts, life passes him by. When a man hesitates, life grows indifferent to him. But when he walks steadily, when he speaks clearly, when he acts decisively, life falls into step beside him. Life respects the man who respects his own purpose. This quality of certainty is not a trick. It is the result of mental discipline. A man must train his thoughts the way a craftsman sharpens a blade. If his thoughts are scattered, his presence becomes weak. If his thoughts are firm, his presence becomes strong. Mental discipline makes a man heavy, heavy with purpose, heavy with direction, heavy with quiet power. I call this mental gravity. It is the invisible force by which a man pulls toward himself the conditions that match his state of mind. A man with mental gravity does not chase opportunity. He draws it. His aim becomes the center of a spiritual field that attracts the means of fulfillment. Consistency builds trust, both within oneself and in the eyes of others. When a man holds the same aim day after day, through fatigue, through discouragement, through uncertainty, his reputation becomes granite. Men watch him and say, he will succeed because he is the same today as he was yesterday. Consistency is power. The rising man's reputation changes long before his results appear. His family feels the shift first. They hear conviction replacing uncertainty. They see order replacing chaos. They notice that his promises no longer float in sentiment, but carry substance. The home becomes calmer because the man has become clearer. Rivals sense it as well. They may not congratulate him, but they watch him with new caution. They see a firmness in his movement, a new direction in his tone. They begin to realize that he has outgrown the man he used to be. Rivalry loses its sting when a man grows too strong inwardly to be threatened by comparison. Faith becomes power only when acted upon daily. A single burst of faith accomplishes little. Faith must be practiced the way strength is practiced. Through repetition, through labor, through disciplined belief, faith is a muscle. The more a man uses it, the more life obeys him. Men who lack consistency ask, why does nothing work out for me? The answer is simple. They have not demonstrated to life that they are ready. They shift their aims daily. They drift between intentions. They hold faith without action and desire without discipline. Life cannot commit itself to a man who will not commit himself to his aim. A man becomes irresistible to success when he aligns his thought, speech, and action. When the three are unified, life has no choice but to move. Most men think one thing, speak another, and act on nothing. Their inner conflict repels opportunity. But the man who thinks decisively, speaks with conviction, and acts without hesitation becomes a magnet for achievement. This alignment saves a decade of trial and error. Men who fail spend years trying to patch together scattered efforts. Men who succeed spend their years directing a single force with clarity. One clear aim shortens the path more than 100 scattered efforts. Your rise begins when you decide to embody certainty. Not once, not occasionally, but daily. Certainty is not a feeling. It is a decision sustained by discipline. You do not wait to feel certain. You choose to be certain, and you repeat that choice until your mind obeys your command. To become a man life cannot resist, you must carry yourself as one who expects results, not arrogantly, not boastfully, quietly, steadily, as a man who walks by principle instead of circumstance. Your presence must declare that you lead your own destiny. Say the words now. I walk with intention. I think with purpose. I act with certainty. Say them until the words change your posture. Say them until your family hears truth in your tone. Say them until your rivals feel the shift in your presence. Say them until life itself begins to respond. Life cannot resist the man who rises inwardly. Life cannot ignore the man who acts decisively. Life cannot deny the man who insists upon his destiny. When you cultivate the quality of certainty, you place your hand upon the levers that bend circumstance to your will. You are becoming that man now. Feel it, sense it, accept it, walk in it. Life will adjust itself to the measure of your certainty. Your future will open to the extent that you command it, and the path ahead will straighten as you take each step with purpose. You have learned how the man must be. You are now prepared to learn what the man must do. Part 3. The method that makes everything work out. There comes a moment in every man's journey when mere inspiration is no longer enough. He must know how to make life obey him. He must understand the method by which thought becomes fact, by which faith becomes movement, by which the invisible becomes visible. Without method, desire wanders. With method, desire commands destiny. This is the method that makes everything work out, not by chance, but by law. You must understand this clearly. Nothing in your life has ever happened without first being shaped in the workshop of your mind. Every triumph began as a thought. Every failure began as a thought permitted to grow unchecked. A man's circumstances are nothing more than the harvest of his own mental activity. When he directs that activity with precision, life must obey. A man cannot rise with scattered thoughts. He cannot succeed with a divided mind. He cannot shape his future while allowing fear, doubt, and indecision to occupy the same chamber where purpose should rule alone. The first step of the method is to establish authority over thought. Without mastery of thought, no other mastery is possible. Directed thought is the force that divides the drifting man from the achieving man. Directed thought is thought chosen, thought commanded, thought held, and thought obeyed. Most men allow their thoughts to run wild like untamed horses, dragging them through fear and hesitation. The advancing man trains his thought like a disciplined steed that carries him toward his aim. To practice directed thought, you must choose a single powerful command that aligns with your desired future. The command for this journey is simple. Everything works out for me. But this command must not be a whisper. It must be spoken with intention, with belief, with repetition. Repetition is the chisel that carves belief into the subconscious. The subconscious mind accepts everything repeated with emotion. It does not argue, it does not question, it does not reason, it obeys. When you speak the command, everything works out for me, with conviction day after day, the subconscious reorganizes your inner condition to match that command. Soon your decisions become more confident, your actions more decisive, your posture more powerful. To imprint the mind, a man must speak his words aloud. Silent thoughts are easily forgotten. Spoken words strike deeper. They vibrate through the body. They echo through the chambers of the mind. They declare to the subconscious, this is the new law by which we live. Spoken words are orders, and the subconscious is a servant that follows orders with exactness. Your old pattern was passive hope. You hoped things would work out, but hope carries no authority. Hope is a request made timidly by a man who fears rejection. Directed thought is a command made by a man who refuses to drift. You must shatter the old pattern. You must abandon the lukewarm belief that life will somehow improve on its own. Consider how Edison approached his aim. He did not say, I hope to create a solution. He said, I will. He held the mental picture of his invention with such clarity that thousands of failures could not shake his resolve. His persistence was not random. It was structured. He visualized the result, repeated the belief, acted daily, and refused to entertain opposing thoughts. Edison did not move by emotion. He moved by method. This is why failure could not defeat him. A man moved by emotion collapses when discouraged. A man moved by method cannot be stopped because his action is not dependent on his mood. Method liberates a man from the weakness of feeling. The formula that governs this method is simple yet profound. Thought arrow, belief arrow, action arrow, identity arrow, destiny. Everything in your life follows this sequence. Thought is the seed. Belief is the soil. Action is the growth. Identity is the tree. Destiny is the fruit. When you alter the thought at the root, you alter the destiny at the crown. Most men react to life instead of commanding it. They wait to see what will happen before deciding how to think. They wait for signs before taking action. This reactive way of living wastes years, sometimes entire lifetimes. The commanding man thinks first, acts second, and watches the world rearrange accordingly. Reaction is the habit of the drifting man. Command is the habit of the rising man. You must cease reacting to life as though you are its servant. You must command life as though you are its partner. You must direct your thoughts with firmness, not wait for your thoughts to direct you. Clarity removes 90% of wasted effort. When a man knows exactly what he desires, his actions become efficient, his mind becomes still, his courage becomes strong. When a man lacks clarity, his energy is scattered. He tries many things and completes nothing. He wanders through half-finished endeavors, wondering why nothing works out for him. Clarity begins with written intention. You must write the sentence, "Everything works out for me because I make it so," every morning. This act anchors your mind. It keeps your thought from wandering into fear or prediction of failure. The written word is a net that catches drifting thought. Autosuggestion is the process by which the written word becomes the lived word. When you write a command daily, you begin to think it. When you think it daily, you begin to speak it. When you speak it daily, you begin to act upon it. When you act upon it daily, you begin to identify with it. When you identify with it, life has no choice but to mirror it. This method will save you years. It will save you from confusion, from false starts, from the endless cycle of enthusiasm followed by retreat. It will save you from drifting back into the patterns that once betrayed you. It will save you from the wasted decades that so many men spend hoping instead of directing. Reflect upon the frustration of your past. Think of the times when things almost worked out, but not fully. When you lacked the final ounce of belief, the final stroke of persistence, the final measure of clarity. Those failures were not the fault of life. They were the fault of an incomplete method. When you complete the method, thought, belief, action, identity, destiny, life becomes predictable. Not easy, but predictable. You begin to know that the result must arrive because the cause has been created. A man who controls cause does not fear outcome. Let me illustrate this with the life of Andrew Carnegie. Before he possessed riches, he possessed the identity of a builder. Before the world called him a titan, he saw himself as one. His identity was formed through daily repetition of a clear purpose. His belief came long before his success. His identity came long before his wealth. Identity is the point at which the method becomes self-sustaining. Once the subconscious accepts the command, "Everything works out for me," you will find that your reactions change, your interpretations change, your courage grows, your choices improve. Success begins to feel natural, not forced. You will walk differently. You will speak differently. You will decide differently. People will notice before you do. They will sense a shift in your energy, your tone, your direction. They will begin to speak of you with new respect. This is not luck. This is identity expressing itself outwardly. When you reach the identity stage, the method no longer requires discipline. It becomes instinct. You act like the man for whom everything works out. You persist like him. You plan like him. You rise like him. And because identity determines destiny, your results match your self-image. Every time you repeat the command, "Everything works out for me," you are not describing the world. You are reshaping it. You are instructing the deepest part of your nature to align with success. You are turning faith into substance. You are turning thought into power. You must speak this command during adversity. You must speak it when the result seems impossible. You must speak it when the bill arrives, when the door closes, when the challenge appears, at the worst possible time. That is when the method proves its worth. That is when the subconscious must hear the voice of authority. Most men abandon the method when conditions become difficult. This is why the method fails them. The method is not meant for calm waters. It is meant for storms. A captain proves his worth not while the sea is still, but when the waves rise. A man proves the strength of his thought not when life is easy, but when life opposes him. If you obey the method during adversity, you will witness something remarkable. Life will bend. Circumstances will rearrange themselves. A way will open where only obstruction existed before doubt will fade. Confidence will grow. This is not magic. It is obedience to law. Life always rewards the man who refuses to retreat from his command. Say the words aloud right now. "Everything works out for me because I direct my thought. Say them again, firmer. Everything works out for me because I refuse drift. Now declare them as identity. Everything works out for me because that is the man I have become. You have learned the method. You are ready to make life obey your will through action. Part 4, making life obey your will through action. There is a point in every man's life when thought alone is no longer enough. He must move. He must act. He must demonstrate to life that he is not merely a thinker, not merely a dreamer, not merely a man who repeats affirmations, but a man who takes the next step with courage, even if he must take it with trembling hands. Action is the bridge between the mind and destiny. Without action, belief remains imprisoned inside the mind. I have seen many men develop strong desire, clear intention, and even disciplined thought, yet fail to rise because they did not act. Action gives substance to faith. Action is the fire that turns thought into form. Action is the visible expression of decision. Without action, a man's belief remains a shadow, interesting but powerless. A man must understand that action makes belief powerful. Belief without action is a myth. It gives comfort but produces nothing. A man may believe he can build an empire, but until he lays the first brick, his belief is only a sentiment. Life rewards only the belief that expresses itself through movement. Look at Henry Ford. When he began, he did not wait for conditions to become ideal. He acted while conditions were unfavorable. He acted without the approval of experts. He acted without the reassurance of friends. He acted before he had proof, before he had resources, before he had structure. His action created the very conditions that others insisted he wait for. Ford's genius was not mechanical. It was spiritual. It was the ability to act when others hesitated. His courage replaced the slow, deliberate caution that paralyzes weaker men. He moved as though the result were already secured. That is the secret of decisive movement. The man acts as though the outcome has already been assigned to him. Action eliminates fear faster than thought alone. A man can sit for hours attempting to think courage into himself, but a single step forward will strengthen him more than 100 silent meditations. Fear cannot survive motion. It dissolves the moment a man walks toward the thing he dreads. Men delay for years and call it planning. Planning becomes a sanctuary for those who fear that their best effort may still result in failure, but no plan gains power until a man acts. Planning is not progress. Action is progress. Planning does not move a man closer to his aim. Action does. A man must not fall in love with preparation. Preparation has value only if it leads to execution. A man who spends years preparing without acting wastes more time than the man who acts imperfectly but consistently. The imperfect action of a decisive man produces more progress than the perfect plan of a drifting man. Decisive movement is a spiritual law. When a man acts, forces unseen move with him. Doors open, people appear, ideas awaken, circumstances shift. The man who waits for conditions to become favorable never sees these forces because they reveal themselves only to the man who acts. I have observed that persistence is loyalty to one's aim. A man who is persistent does not need constant inspiration. He does not need encouragement. He does not need applause. He continues because he has given his word to himself. Persistence is the highest form of self-respect. Life respects the man who continues. He may be bruised, he may be tired, he may be ridiculed, yet he continues. And because he continues, life eventually yields circumstances that once resisted him weaken. Obstacles that once intimidated him shrink. Challenges that once angered him teach him. Persistence is not a loud force. It is a quiet, stubborn flame that refuses to extinguish. Edison embodied this flame. Thousands of failures surrounded him, yet he persisted. His persistence was not emotional. It was deliberate. He acted daily even when results seemed invisible. His actions became the foundation of invention. Think of the lives reshaped by a single act of persistence. Andrew Carnegie was refused opportunity many times before he rose, yet each refusal strengthened his determination. He continued, he acted, he insisted, and the world eventually recognized a man who would not be denied. When a man persists long enough, life begins to trust him. Opportunity visits repeatedly, because opportunity sees that he will not squander it. The drifting man is ignored by opportunity. The persistent man is pursued by it. Persistence trains the world to take a man seriously. Action transforms more than results. It transforms reputation. The man who acts gains credibility in his home. His spouse sees movement instead of excuses. She hears progress instead of promises. She observes that each day he is shaping a future, not merely talking about one. Respect returns to the home when the man moves. Action transforms children as well. Children learn by imitation. They watch their father rise each morning with purpose, and they learn that purpose is a normal part of life. They see him working, planning, striving, and refusing to drift. They see that he commands life instead of waiting for it to treat him kindly. They inherit his strength. Rivals sense action too. They may not say it aloud, but their eyes reveal their recognition. They know you have stepped beyond the stage of talking. They know you have entered the stage of building. They begin to withdraw their silent judgments. They begin to measure their own efforts against yours. Your action becomes a reminder of their hesitation. Setbacks bend when a man refuses to bend. Setbacks have power only over the man who allows them to define him. A setback cannot break a man who has decided that he cannot be broken. Life bends to the will of the man who acts without surrender. When he persists long enough, even adversity becomes an ally. The world respects the man who continues. It respects the man who holds his purpose through hardship. It respects the man who does not quit when others quit. The world respects the man whose actions speak louder than his fears. Action saves decades. A man who acts relentlessly will accomplish in 1 year what a hesitant man cannot accomplish in 20. Drift consumes years, the way a fire consumes wood. Action, by contrast, condenses years of progress into months. This is how a man saves 10, 20, or even 30 years of his life. You must teach your body to obey your mind. When your mind gives the order to act, you must act. Delay weakens authority. Immediate action strengthens it. Every time you obey your own command, you increase your power. Every time you hesitate, you diminish it. Action creates identity. A man who acts daily becomes the kind of man who expects results. His identity shifts from dreamer to doer, from observer to creator, from drifter to commander. This identity becomes permanent only through action. Words plant the seed. Action grows the tree. A man must move quickly, but not carelessly. Speed is not recklessness. Speed is clarity. When a man knows his aim, speed becomes natural. He does not need to pause to question his direction. He knows. Clarity eliminates hesitation. The man who acts decisively becomes immune to the paralysis that stops others. He becomes too busy moving to be disrupted by fear. He becomes too engaged in progress to be delayed by doubt. Action carries him like a current carries a ship. The more he moves, the more the current strengthens. Your mind must not only direct your actions, it must support them. When you act, you must affirm, everything works out for me because I move. When you act again, affirm, everything works out because I refuse drift. Repetition strengthens identity. Identity strengthens action. Together, they form a cycle that builds destiny. Do not underestimate the power of small actions. Small actions performed daily create enormous change. A single disciplined act performed each morning can alter the course of your life. When repeated hundreds of times, it reshapes character, destiny, and reputation. Let me reveal a truth that few men understand. Life applauds movement. Life mirrors movement. Life accelerates when a man accelerates. A man who stands still invites stagnation. A man who acts invites opportunity. Your task is simple. You must become the man who acts while others wait, the man who moves while others hesitate, the man who builds while others dream, the man who continues while others surrender. That man always wins. Action is not merely a choice, it is a declaration. It declares to the world, I am worthy of the result. It declares to your mind, I command my destiny. It declares to your future, prepare a place for me, for I am on my way. Say the words now, I move, I act, I advance. Life obeys me because I obey my purpose. Say them until your body accepts the command. Say them until your hesitation dissolves. Say them until you become the man who does not stop. You are now ready for the final stage, becoming the man for whom everything works. Part 5, becoming the man for whom everything works. There is a stage in a man's development when he no longer hopes that things will work out. He knows they will. He knows it with the same certainty with which he knows the sun will rise, with the same assurance with which he trusts his own breath. This knowing does not come from arrogance. It comes from mastery. It comes from having reshaped his own nature so completely that life must respond in his favor. This is the stage where a man becomes the one for whom everything works. To become this man, you must understand one truth above all: identity determines outcome. A man's life does not rise to the level of his wishes, it rises to the level of his identity. A man may speak the words, everything works out for me, but unless his identity supports those words, they remain empty sound. The man you are within determines the results you experience without. Identity is the root of destiny. It is stronger than thought. It is stronger than belief. It is stronger than action. Identity governs thought. Identity fuels belief. Identity dictates action. A man acts according to who he believes himself to be, not according to what he hopes he might become. This is why two men may recite the same affirmation, read the same book, make the same plan, yet see entirely different futures. One man acts from fear, the other from certainty. One man hopes the affirmation is true, the other knows it is true. One man moves as a beggar requesting mercy, the other moves as a builder claiming what he has earned. Their identities control their results. If you desire a life where everything works out, you must become the man who expects it as a natural consequence of his character. This is the principle I call identity permanence. Once the subconscious accepts the new self-image, it defends it automatically. It becomes a guardian of your destiny. The subconscious, once trained, becomes fierce in its loyalty. It resists thoughts, actions, and habits that contradict the identity you have chosen. When you declare, I am the man for whom everything works, and reinforce that identity with repetition, action, and persistence, your subconscious begins rejecting every impulse that weakens you. It rejects hesitation, it rejects drift, and it rejects fear. It rejects self-doubt. It rejects the old nature entirely. This is how a man becomes unshakable, not because he is protected from difficulty, but because he is defended by a subconscious mind that no longer tolerates weakness. Rockefeller exemplified this. He was not calm because life was easy. He was calm because his inner identity was anchored. He believed in his destiny with such quiet certainty that external chaos could not reach him. When the world panicked, he remained composed. When markets collapsed, he stood firm. His identity did not permit him to tremble. Carnegie displayed the same steadiness. He walked with the composure of a man who had already achieved greatness long before the world acknowledged it. He was not surprised by success. He expected it. Success was not an event for him. It was a reflection of the man he had already become inside. Edison was unbreakable, not because he never failed, but because his identity did not allow failure to define him. He never saw failure as a verdict. He saw it as a refinement. His identity was that of a creator, a builder, a pioneer. Every setback merely sharpened that identity further. These men did not merely act differently. They were different. They thought from a higher plane. They believed from a deeper place. They moved with the certainty of men whose subconscious had accepted their greatness as law. Your task now is the same, and to become the man for whom everything works because he has become the cause of that outcome. You must understand how identity expresses itself outwardly. A man's identity becomes visible long before his results appear. It shows itself in his posture, his tone, his choices, his discipline, his silence, his presence. Identity is a light that shines through conduct. When you begin to identify as the man for whom everything works, your presence changes. People feel it. They may not be able to articulate what has changed, but they sense it. They sense that your words carry weight. They sense that your actions carry intention. They sense that you have become a man who cannot be moved by trivial fears. Your family will notice first. They will hear steadiness in your voice. They will feel certainty in your manner. They will observe that you no longer speak from a place of hope, but from a place of assurance. Your spouse will feel safe under the strength of your character. Your children will feel pride in the firmness of your demeanor. A family is transformed when the father transforms. A household becomes stronger when the man becomes stronger. A man's identity is not a private matter. It influences every soul in his home. When you become the man for whom everything works out, your family's confidence rises with you. Your rivals will notice next. They will see that you have ceased competing with others and begun competing only with your former self. This unnerves them, for a man who is no longer distracted by comparison becomes formidable rivals fear the man who rises from within, because nothing outside of him can stop him. Opportunity notices as well. Opportunity has always been sensitive to identity. It gravitates to certainty. It gravitates to discipline. It gravitates to the man who moves. As though he belongs on the heights, opportunity does not linger around the drifting, the fearful, the uncertain. It attaches itself to the decisive. When you become this man, everything in your life changes. Difficult tasks become manageable. Obstacles become training. Critics lose their sting. Doubt loses its voice. You begin to see each event, even those that appear unfavorable, as something working for your advancement. This is the greatest secret of the rising man. He sees everything as working in his favor, even when it appears otherwise. When something delays him, he interprets it as protection. When something challenges him, he interprets it as preparation. When something tests him, he interprets it as refinement. When something stretches him, he interprets it as strengthening. Nothing defeats a man who interprets everything as fuel. And this is how everything begins to work out for you. Not because every event is pleasant, but because you have become the man who turns every event into an advantage. Your identity becomes the lens through which you interpret reality. Your interpretation determines your emotional state. Your emotional state determines your actions. Your actions determine your results. Your results reinforce your identity. This cycle, identity arrow, interpretation arrow, action arrow, result arrow, identity, creates a man life cannot resist. But you must reinforce this identity daily through repetition. The affirmation must become your inner command. Everything works out for me. Repeat it with conviction. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Repeat it until your subconscious adopts it as law. Repeat it until your body moves with the posture of a man for whom everything works out. Speak it in the morning. Speak it when difficulty appears. Speak it when opportunities arise. Speak it before sleep. Speak it until your voice shapes your identity. Identity permanence occurs only when repetition aligns with conduct. A man becomes what he repeatedly declares, but only when he acts in harmony with his declaration. Thus, you must behave like the man for whom everything works out. Speak with clarity. Move with purpose. Act with decisiveness. Persist with loyalty. Hold your mind steady. Guard your thought against fear. The man who expects everything to work out must not engage in self-pity, for self-pity is poison to identity. He must not indulge in complaint, for complaint is surrender disguised as expression. He must not entertain doubt, for doubt cracks the foundation of destiny. He must speak only that which strengthens him, act only in ways that advance him, and think only in ways that align with his chosen identity. When identity becomes permanent, fear loses authority. Fear may still whisper, but it cannot command. Doubt may still appear, but it cannot influence. Weakness may still tempt, but it cannot conquer. The man for whom everything works out becomes immune to the forces that once defeated him. He does not ask, "Will this work?" He asks only, "What must I do next?" He does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "How can this serve me?" He does not ask, "What if I fail?" He asks, "How do I rise further?" His identity has changed the questions he asks himself, and therefore changed the answers life gives him. This is how a man saves not only 10 years, not only 20, but potentially an entire lifetime. When a man chooses identity early, life accelerates. When a man delays identity, life withholds reward. Most men discover their identity too late. You must not. Say the words with command now. I am the man for whom everything works. Say them again, firmer. Everything bends for me because I bend myself to law. Now declare them as identity. I do not hope. Everything works out for me because that is who I am. Your future will follow the man you become, not the man you were. Become the man life cannot deny, cannot resist, cannot defeat. Everything will work out for you because you have become the cause. Epilogue, the final command to the rising man. A man reaches a turning point when he can no longer return to the version of himself that drifted, doubted, and delayed. You have reached that point now. You have learned the law, trained the thought, moved with intention, and forged the identity of a man for whom everything works. There is no returning to smallness, because smallness no longer fits the structure of your spirit. You must understand that your former self has ended. You are no longer the man who waited for life to behave before he behaved. You are no longer the man who hoped quietly while doubting secretly. You are no longer the man who made promises by sunrise and abandoned them by nightfall. That man has dissolved because you have replaced him with a man of decision. The path ahead is not governed by chance. It is governed by the identity you have built. Identity directs thought, thought directs action, action directs destiny. You now possess an identity that commands the world rather than reacts to it. You have become the cause, not the effect. And a man who becomes the cause no longer fears the outcome. Each day from this moment forward, you must walk with the calm assurance that everything bends toward your advancement. This is not wishful thinking. It is obedience to law. Life favors the decisive. Life strengthens the persistent. Life honors the disciplined. And you have chosen to embody all three. Therefore, life must honor you. Your family will feel the change long before they see the results. They will watch you move with steadiness instead of fear. They will hear confidence replacing hesitation. They will sense that you have become a man who does not collapse beneath difficulty. You will become their quiet reassurance, their anchor, their proof that strength is possible. Your children will study you as they have always done, but now they will see a different man, one who does not bow to uncertainty, one who does not retreat into excuses, one who does not live by chance. They will inherit your certainty the way other children inherit land. This is legacy. This is leadership. Your rivals will sense the shift as well. They may not speak it aloud, but they will feel the difference in your gaze. They will notice that your voice carries weight. They will recognize that you have transformed from a man who wished for success to a man who expects it. Rivals fear expectation because expectation produces results. You must now carry yourself as a man whose presence predicts his future. Let your tone be calm, your step steady, your decisions firm. Let your actions declare that you have become aligned with law. Do not speak of your rise, demonstrate it. Let the world discover your ascent through your conduct, not your announcements. Say these words each morning with authority. Everything works out for me because I make it work. These words are not decoration. They are command. They are the hammer and chisel with which you carve your destiny. Speak them until your subconscious accepts them. Speak them until your behavior mirrors them. Speak them until they become the law of your life. From this hour forward, difficulty is no longer your enemy. Difficulty is your instructor. Every obstacle that appears in your path is not hindering you. It is shaping you. Every setback you encounter is not defeating you. It is refining you. Every delay you face is not punishing you. It is preparing you. You are no longer the man who fears resistance. You are the man who grows from it. Understand this truth deeply. There is no punishment in your path, only preparation. There is no rejection in your life, only redirection. There is no failure in your story, only feedback. Everything works out for the man who uses everything. This is the advantage of the rising man. He wastes nothing. He turns all of life into material for his ascent. You will meet moments that once would have frightened you. Now you will meet them with composure. You will face decisions that once would have overwhelmed you. Now you will face them with clarity. You will encounter setbacks that once would have defeated you. Now you will rise through them with dignity. This is the strength of the identity you have built. Every day you must honor the man you have become. Do not drift back into the habits that once betrayed you. Do not entertain the doubts that once diminished you. Do not permit the weaknesses that once controlled you to re-enter your mind. You have risen above them. They belong to a man you no longer are. When you wake, stand with purpose. When you speak, speak with intention. When you act, act with discipline. When you decide, decide with authority. Let every movement of your life reflect the identity you now possess. You are a man who commands his destiny. Behave as such. Repeat this final affirmation until it becomes the marrow of your spirit. Everything works out for me because I rise, I persist, and I decide. Say it again. Everything works out for me because I am the cause. Say it once more with absolute conviction. Everything works out for me every day, every hour, every time. Carry these words with you. Live them, prove them, become them. For the man who becomes the cause becomes unstoppable. And for such a man, and everything works out. Success is not only built by what you add to your life, it is built more decisively by what you remove. Most men attempt to win by accumulating more knowledge, more tactics, more connections, yet they remain stuck because they refuse to eliminate what weakens them. Look carefully at your daily routine. Where does your attention wander? Where does your energy drain in quiet, unnoticed ways? Victory is rarely destroyed by one dramatic failure. It is suffocated by small distractions tolerated repeatedly. You say you want to win. But do your habits reflect that declaration, or do they reveal divided loyalty between ambition and comfort? Your calendar tells the truth your words sometimes hide. The mind cannot focus deeply while scattered across trivial concerns. Every notification, every unnecessary obligation, every idle conversation fractures your concentration. And fractured concentration produces fractured results. The world profits from your distraction. It designs systems to capture your attention. Endless content, endless comparison, endless stimulation. If you are not deliberate, you become reactive. Winning requires intensity. Intensity requires focus, and focus demands elimination. You cannot pursue greatness while entertaining everything. Ask yourself this uncomfortable question. What am I tolerating that is slowing me down? Perhaps it is late nights disguised as relaxation. Perhaps it is gossip disguised as connection. Perhaps it is self-doubt disguised as humility. There are habits you have outgrown but refuse to release. There are influences you know weaken you, yet you keep them for familiarity. Familiarity is seductive. It feels safe. But safety is not victory. The first thing you must cut is scattered attention. Multitasking feels efficient, but it divides power. Concentrated effort, directed at one definite objective, produces momentum. The second thing you must cut is indecision. Indecision is disguised as careful thinking, but prolonged hesitation drains confidence. Decide, adjust if necessary, but stop living in the gray space of uncertainty. The third thing you must cut is toxic association. Spend enough time around complaint and it becomes normal. Spend enough time around mediocrity and ambition feels extreme. You do not rise above your environment accidentally. You either shape it intentionally or it shapes you unconsciously. Elimination sometimes means distancing from those who are comfortable remaining stagnant. The fourth thing you must cut is unnecessary consumption. Information is abundant, but wisdom requires digestion. Endless reading without execution creates illusion of progress. The fifth thing you must cut is self-sabotaging language. Listen to how you speak about yourself. I'm not ready. I'm not that type. These phrases condition your identity. Identity governs behavior. The sixth thing you must cut is comfort disguised as recovery. Rest is necessary, but endless comfort erodes urgency. The line between restoration and avoidance is thin. The seventh thing you must cut is fear of criticism. Fear of what others might think will keep you small. The moment you begin chasing approval, you dilute purpose. Elimination is uncomfortable because it demands responsibility. It removes excuses. It exposes where you have been undisciplined. It requires you to choose growth over familiarity. Have you ever noticed how clarity increases after you simplify? How lighter you feel after removing clutter from your physical space? The same principle applies to your mental environment. When you eliminate distraction, your mind sharpens. Ideas connect faster. Decisions strengthen. Momentum builds. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Most men try to climb higher while carrying unnecessary weight. They wonder why progress feels slow. They blame circumstance. Rarely do they examine what they refuse to release. You cannot entertain everything and expect to excel at one thing. Concentration is the secret weapon of high achievers, and concentration is impossible without sacrifice. Every yes to distraction is a no to your definite purpose. Every tolerated habit steals energy that could have been invested in growth. Imagine what would happen if you cut one major distraction this week, one habit that weakens focus, one influence that drains enthusiasm. How much mental space would you recover? Winning is not complicated. It is disciplined. It is intentional subtraction followed by concentrated effort. The world will not simplify itself for you. It will offer endless options, endless diversions. If you do not choose what to eliminate, you will be consumed by what you never intended to entertain. Look honestly at your life. Where are you divided? Where are you tolerating what should have been cut months ago? The courage to eliminate is the courage to win, because what you remove determines what remains, and what remains determines your future. Success does not begin with addition. It begins with subtraction. Before a man can rise, he must release what weakens him. The first and most destructive habit he must cut is scattered attention. The mind cannot gather power while divided among 100 trivial pursuits. Divided attention feels harmless, a brief diversion here, an unnecessary conversation there, idle reading, idle complaint, idle curiosity. None of these alone appears ruinous. Yet combined, they fracture concentration and steal the hours required for mastery. The law is simple and unchanging. Concentrated thought multiplies force. When the mind is fixed upon one commanding objective, it gathers intensity. Like sunlight drawn through a lens, it becomes capable of ignition. Without concentration, ambition remains vague and powerless. Thomas Edison did not produce invention by entertaining every passing interest. His laboratory was a place of fixed attention. One problem held his mind until it yielded. That discipline shortened the distance between attempt and success. Henry Ford fixed his thought upon producing an automobile within reach of the average man. He did not scatter his effort across countless unrelated ventures. His concentration attracted cooperation and sustained persistence. Many men mistake motion for advancement. They move constantly, yet accomplish little. They answer every call upon their time. They attend to every interruption. At day's end, they feel fatigue, but not progress. 10 years may vanish in such motion. 20 years may fade in alternating enthusiasm and distraction. 30 years may pass before a man realizes that his greatest loss was not opportunity, but divided thought. Scattered attention weakens transmission. When the mind jumps from one concern to another, its signal grows faint. Energy disperses. Results reflect that dispersion. Controlled attention is therefore essential. Choose one definite objective. Assign hours to it deliberately. Guard those hours against intrusion. Refuse obligations that do not serve your chief aim. The world will not simplify itself for you. It offers endless diversions. It profits from your distraction. If you do not choose what deserves your thought, others will choose for you. Observe a man of concentrated purpose. His speech is deliberate, his movements efficient, his presence calm. Others sense direction within him. They respond with respect. Concentration breeds authority. Authority breeds influence. Influence breeds opportunity. The chain begins with elimination of distraction. Saying no requires courage. Each refusal to indulge triviality strengthens your purpose. Each acceptance of distraction weakens it. Discipline grows through practice. Ask yourself daily, does this activity advance my aim or divide it? If it divides, cut it without regret. Affirm each morning, I concentrate my attention upon my definite purpose. I reject distractions. My focused thought produces power. Repetition of this affirmation trains the mind. The brain becomes accustomed to unified direction. Over time, distraction loses appeal. Consider how different your life would appear if for the next decade you eliminated one major distraction each year. 10 years reclaimed, 20 if you persist, 30 if you sustain discipline without exception. Winning requires intensity. Intensity demands focus. Focus demands sacrifice. You cannot entertain everything and excel at one thing. Most men attempt to climb while carrying unnecessary weight. They wonder why progress is slow. They rarely examine what they refuse to release. When attention is unified, ideas connect swiftly. Decisions sharpen. Effort compounds. Momentum replaces confusion. The courage to eliminate is the courage to advance. You may lose trivial pleasure, but you gain power. You may disappoint some, but you strengthen your aim. Say again, my attention is unified, my energy is directed, my purpose commands my time. In cutting scattered attention, you perform the first act of victory. You reclaim your hours. You gather your force. You prepare your mind for decisive action. Without this discipline, no other principle can sustain achievement. With it, progress accelerates. Thus, the first thing you must cut to win is scattered attention. Remove it, and clarity remains. Where clarity remains, power grows. And where power grows, victory becomes possible. After cutting scattered attention, the next enemy to remove is indecision. If divided focus weakens power, hesitation dissolves it entirely. A man may possess talent, knowledge, and opportunity, yet remains stagnant because he refuses to conclude. Indecision disguises itself as careful thought. It whispers that more time is required, that additional information must be gathered, that perfect certainty must be reached. Meanwhile, opportunity waits for no man. Delay is often more costly than error. There is a profound difference between thoughtful consideration and endless hesitation. Thoughtful consideration leads to conclusion. Endless hesitation circles without landing. One clarifies, the other confuses. Each time you delay a necessary decision, you weaken confidence in your own judgment. The brain begins to associate choice with discomfort. Over time, hesitation becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. The dividing line between the drifter and the leader is decision. The drifter waits for conditions to align perfectly. The leader aligns himself with conditions and proceeds. Consider the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Their decision was not safe. It was not without risk. Yet once made, it was final. They did not revisit it in secret doubt. Their conclusion shaped history. Henry Ford did not ask his engineers whether a V8 engine was possible in order to retreat at the first objection. He decided it would be done. That decision, fixed firmly, compelled persistence until achievement followed. Indecision consumes years quietly. 10 years may pass while a man debates whether to begin. 20 while he evaluates every possible outcome. 30 while he stands at the threshold of ambition without crossing it. Winning demands movement. Movement requires conclusion. You cannot advance while lingering at every crossroad. Others instinctively trust the decisive individual. They sense certainty. They respond to clarity. When you conclude firmly, your speech gains strength. Your posture steadies. Your actions carry weight. Indecision, by contrast, reveals doubt. Even when words appear confident, tone betrays uncertainty. Associates hesitate to commit themselves to a wavering mind. The discipline required is simple in statement, yet difficult in execution. Decide promptly and stand by your decision. If adjustment becomes necessary, adjust without self-reproach, but do not linger. Set a time limit for important choices. Gather essential facts, then conclude. Refuse to rehearse the alternative endlessly once you have chosen. Say to yourself each day, I decide swiftly. I trust my judgment. My decisions grow stronger through use. This affirmation must be practiced. Begin with small matters. Conclude quickly. Train the mind to associate choice with authority rather than fear. Confidence grows through decision. The brain, once accustomed to firm choice, strengthens its signal. Indecision weakens transmission. Decision sharpens it. Examine your own history. Where have you hesitated unnecessarily? Where have you allowed fear of error to delay action? Each such instance represents time surrendered. Imagine the years regained if you had acted sooner. 10 years reclaimed through bold beginning. 20 through unwavering commitment. 30 through refusal to retreat at the first obstacle. Decision does not guarantee absence of error. It guarantees progress. Error may be corrected. Delay rarely can. When you decide, you instruct your subconscious mind to align resources toward execution. When you hesitate, you instruct it to remain uncertain. The habit of decision also eliminates inner conflict. Doubt diminishes when choice is firm. Energy once consumed by debate becomes available for action. Winning is not achieved by the man who knows the most possibilities, but by the man who chooses one and commits fully. Ask yourself, what decision have I postponed that requires immediate conclusion? What hesitation has cost me momentum? Resolve now to end lingering uncertainty. Conclude. Act. Adjust if required, but never return to paralysis. Affirm daily, my decisions are firm, my commitment is steady. I advance without hesitation. In cutting indecision, you remove a heavy burden. You lighten the climb. You accelerate progress. The world does not reward perpetual contemplation. It rewards directed action. Thus, the second thing you must cut to win is indecision. Remove it and clarity remains. Where clarity remains, authority grows. And where authority grows, victory draws near. After a man has cut scattered attention and indecision, he must examine something far less obvious yet equally powerful, his associations. No individual rises permanently above the prevailing tone of those with whom he spends his most intimate hours. Association is atmosphere. Atmosphere shapes expectation. Spend sufficient time among those who rehearse failure, and failure begins to sound reasonable. Remain in the company of those who complain habitually, and complaint begins to feel justified. The repetition of mediocrity dulls ambition quietly. Mediocrity is seductive because it is comfortable. It asks little, it forgives delay, it normalizes stagnation. A man may begin with fire in his heart, yet after prolonged exposure to lukewarm conversation, that fire dims. Repeated complaint becomes accepted truth. When scarcity is discussed daily, scarcity appears inevitable. When limitation is rehearsed frequently, limitation feels practical. The mind adapts to its climate. Loyalty must not be confused with self-betrayal. You may value friendship without adopting discouragement. You may respect another's choice to remain stationary without surrendering your own aspiration. Andrew Carnegie did not gather around him men who magnified impossibility. He selected men who believed in expansion. His mastermind alliances were constructed intentionally, not casually. Harmony of ambition strengthened enterprise. Henry Ford did not surround himself with timid spirits. He required cooperation from those who shared his determination. Had he accepted the prevailing doubt of lesser minds, his enterprise would have faltered. Association influences not only thought, but courage. When surrounded by initiative, boldness feels natural. When surrounded by caution disguised as prudence, boldness feels reckless. 10 years may be lost in company that tolerates smallness, 20 in circles that discourage risk, 30 in environments that reward conformity over conviction. Examine your immediate circle honestly. What is the dominant tone of conversation? Is it constructive? Is it hopeful? Is it ambitious? Or is it centered upon complaint, gossip, and criticism? The disciplined individual chooses association deliberately. He seeks those who speak of plans rather than grievances. He values minds that stimulate imagination rather than stifle it. This does not require abandonment of all who think differently. It requires selection of those whose influence penetrates deeply. You must guard proximity carefully. Others will notice when you alter your associations. Your tone changes, your outlook sharpens, your ambition intensifies. Some may interpret this as pride. In truth, it is protection. Association is contagious. Confidence spreads. So does doubt. You are not immune to repetition. No man is. Within a constructive mastermind alliance, ideas multiply. Courage strengthens. Each member reinforces the belief of the other. Such association accelerates achievement. Affirm daily. I associate with those who strengthen my purpose. My companions elevate my ambition. I guard my environment. Through repetition of this discipline, you create climate conducive to victory. Climate determines growth. Growth determines result. Consider the years reclaimed by leaving negative atmosphere. 10 saved through immediate distancing. 20 through sustained constructive companionship. 30 through lifelong selection of elevated minds. Winning requires more than personal resolve. It requires environment that supports resolve. Without that environment, even strong ambition may erode. When you reshape your associations, you reshape expectation. When expectation rises, action strengthens. When action strengthens, results follow. Thus, the third thing you must cut to win is weak association. Remove it, and strength remains. Where strength remains, courage grows. And where courage grows, greatness becomes attainable. After attention, decision, and association have been disciplined, there remains another enemy that operates quietly within a man's own mouth. Many men defeat themselves not by action, but by speech. Words repeated form belief. Belief forms identity. Identity directs behavior. Listen closely to the way men speak of themselves. I am not ready. I am not that type. I have always struggled. These statements appear harmless, yet repeated often enough, They become instruction to the subconscious mind. The brain accepts repetition as command. There's a difference between humility and self-diminishment. True humility recognizes room for growth. Self-diminishment denies capacity before effort is applied. One invites progress. The other prevents it. Each careless declaration weakens transmission. If you speak as though you are incapable, you begin to act in harmony with that belief. Others respond accordingly. They treat you as you describe yourself. Guard your language with vigilance. Replace weakening declarations immediately. When you hear yourself say, "I cannot," correct it with, "I am learning." When you are tempted to say, "I am not prepared," say instead, "I will prepare." Speech is rehearsal. What you rehearse becomes familiar. What becomes familiar feels true. Therefore, rehearse strength. The second danger in this category is excessive consumption of information without execution. Many men believe they are progressing because they read endlessly, attend lectures, and collect knowledge. Yet knowledge without application produces illusion rather than result. Information is abundant. Wisdom is rare. Wisdom arises when knowledge is digested and applied. Endless study without action creates a comfortable hiding place for hesitation. Thomas Edison did not wait until he felt perfectly informed before attempting invention. He experimented, he tested, he acted. Knowledge became power through execution. Edwin C. Barnes did not declare himself unprepared to work with Edison. He stepped into opportunity boldly, though circumstances were humble. Action transformed intention into position. Excess consumption divides attention and delays decision. It offers the comfort of learning without the discomfort of doing. Years may pass under the illusion of preparation. 10 years may be lost to careless speech that reinforces weakness. 20 years to studying without acting. 30 years to rehearsing limitation until it feels permanent. Others respond to disciplined speech. When you speak with confidence, they perceive authority. When you describe yourself as capable, they treat you as such. When you diminish yourself, they accept your estimate. Speech influences posture, tone, and demeanor. It shapes the signal you transmit. If your language reflects doubt, your body follows. If your language reflects strength, your conduct aligns. Ask yourself, what phrases do I repeat daily? Do they strengthen or weaken my purpose? What knowledge have I consumed without applying? Eliminate self-sabotaging language. Limit consumption to what you can implement immediately. Replace passive intake with active execution. Affirm daily. My words strengthen my identity. I speak in harmony with my purpose. I apply what I learn without delay. Repetition of this affirmation trains the mind. The subconscious begins to accept strength as normal. Identity shifts gradually. Winning requires not only cutting external distraction, but internal contradiction. Your speech must align with your ambition. Your study must align with your action. The world offers endless information. It rewards those who execute. The difference lies in application. Thus, the fourth thing you must cut to win is self-sabotaging speech and unnecessary consumption. Remove them, and clarity remains. Where clarity remains, confidence grows. And where confidence grows, action follows. In guarding your language and limiting idle intake, you reclaim time, strengthen identity, and accelerate progress. What you say about yourself becomes the frame through which you see your future. Guard it carefully, for in your own words lie either chains or wings. There remains one final weight that must be cut if a man intends to win. It is heavier than distraction, more paralyzing than indecision, and more deceptive than weak association. It is the twin burden of comfort and fear of criticism. Together, they hold more ambition in chains than open opposition ever could. Comfort is not the same as restoration. Restoration renews strength so that greater effort may follow. Comfort, when prolonged, becomes indulgence. It lulls urgency. It dulls hunger. It whispers that tomorrow will be sufficient. The line between restoration and avoidance is thin. A man convinces himself that he deserves ease after minor effort. Days stretch into weeks. Momentum fades quietly. Ambition softens. Comfort becomes an invisible chain because it feels harmless. It does not appear destructive. It appears pleasant. Yet growth requires tension. Muscles strengthen under resistance, not ease. Character forms under challenge, not indulgence. Every hour surrendered to unnecessary comfort is an hour withdrawn from construction. 10 years may pass in moderate effort, cushioned by excessive ease. 20 in cautious living disguised as prudence. 30 in never fully testing one's capacity. Fear of criticism binds ambition even more tightly. Many men shrink not because they lack talent, but because they dread opinion. They measure their actions by anticipated applause. They dilute boldness to avoid disapproval. Fear of criticism is one of the chief causes of failure. It persuades a man to remain small. It convinces him that safety lies in conformity. It disguises timidity as humility. Consider innovators who endured ridicule before recognition. The Wright brothers were doubted. Henry Ford was criticized. Thomas Edison was dismissed repeatedly. Had they shaped their conduct according to popular opinion, progress would have halted. Approval-seeking divides purpose. When you act to satisfy others rather than your definite aim, your signal weakens. You become reactive instead of directive. Others sense the difference. The man who stands firm despite criticism commands respect, even from those who disagree. The man who adjusts constantly to please others loses authority. Courage compounds. Each time you act boldly despite fear, confidence strengthens. Each time you retreat to avoid criticism, doubt grows. Ask yourself honestly, where have I chosen comfort over growth? Where have I silenced ambition to avoid judgment? Each such instance marks lost momentum. 10 years may be reclaimed by refusing to postpone necessary action, 20 by ignoring gossip, 30 by living according to purpose rather than popularity. The disciplined individual distinguishes between useful counsel and empty criticism. He listens for improvement, yet refuses to surrender conviction to ridicule. When you release the need for approval, you gain freedom. Freedom strengthens transmission. It clarifies reception. It sharpens identity. Imagine the authority you would project if fear of criticism held no power over you. Your speech would grow direct, your decisions swift, your conduct aligned fully with purpose. Affirm daily, I release unnecessary comfort. I fear no criticism. My courage strengthens my purpose. Repeat this until it becomes natural. The subconscious mind must be trained to associate criticism with opportunity for growth rather than danger. The world rarely applauds boldness at first. It often resists it. Yet history consistently rewards those who persist beyond ridicule. Winning demands sacrifice. You must sacrifice comfort that weakens you. You must sacrifice the approval of those who prefer you small. In cutting these final obstacles, you remove the last excuses. What remains is concentrated ambition supported by courage. This is how you save 10 years of delay. This is how you reclaim 20 years of caution. This is how you avoid surrendering 30 years to mediocrity disguised as safety. Success is not built solely by what you add. It is built decisively by what you eliminate. Cut distraction. Cut indecision. Cut weakening association. Cut limiting speech. Cut indulgent comfort and fear of criticism. What remains after elimination is strength. Strength sustained becomes power. Power directed becomes achievement. And achievement born of disciplined subtraction is the reward reserved for the man who has the courage to remove what weakens him and stand firmly in what remains. You now understand that victory is not constructed solely through accumulation. It is forged through elimination. Yet knowledge of what to remove is not the same as removal itself. Many will agree with these principles, nod in approval, and then return to habits unchanged. The world does not require your discipline. It will continue offering distraction, hesitation, weak association, careless speech, indulgent comfort, and endless criticism. It profits from your divided loyalty. It does not insist that you eliminate anything. That responsibility rests entirely with you. Elimination is uncomfortable because it exposes truth. When you cut distraction, you confront how much time was wasted. When you cut indecision, you confront how often fear disguised itself as caution. When you cut weak association, you confront misplaced loyalty. When you cut self-sabotaging speech, you confront your own limiting declarations. When you cut comfort and fear of criticism, you confront your desire for approval. Few men welcome such confrontation. That is why few rise beyond the ordinary. Yet once subtraction begins, transformation follows quietly. The mind grows clearer, energy increases, time expands. You discover hours once hidden beneath triviality. You feel lighter, not because work diminished, but because unnecessary weight has been removed. The compound effect of elimination is extraordinary. One distraction removed today yields a clearer hour tomorrow. One decisive act today builds confidence for the next. One courageous refusal to indulge comfort strengthens discipline for the following week. Multiply this over 10 years. Multiply it over 20. Multiply it over 30. The difference between the man who eliminates and the man who tolerates becomes dramatic. Others will notice. They may not know what changed, but they will feel it. They will see steadiness in your gaze. They will hear certainty in your voice. They will observe that you no longer chase trivial approval. They will sense direction. Respect grows around those who demonstrate clarity. Opportunity gravitates toward those who demonstrate discipline. Confidence inspires trust. Internally, something even greater occurs. Conflict diminishes. When distraction is removed, focus remains. When indecision is cut, resolve strengthens. When fear of criticism is discarded, authenticity emerges. You no longer negotiate with your own weakness. You no longer argue with your own ambition. You act. The greatest tragedy is not failure. It is wasted potential. It is years surrendered to habits that should have been cut long ago. It is ambition diluted by comfort. You have the opportunity to end that tragedy. Imagine standing 10 years from today knowing you removed the obstacles immediately instead of tolerating them. Imagine 20 years from now free from regret that you lingered in hesitation. Imagine 30 years from now grateful that you chose courage over approval. The future will arrive regardless. The question is whether it will find you burdened or sharpened. Say to yourself now, I release what weakens me. I refuse divided loyalty. I eliminate without apology. Repeat this daily. Make elimination habitual. What you remove determines what remains. What remains determines your strength. Strength sustained becomes influence. Influence directed becomes achievement. Achievement repeated becomes legacy. This is how you save 10 years. This is how you reclaim 20. This is how you avoid losing 30. Not through sudden fortune, not through mysterious advantage, but through disciplined subtraction practiced relentlessly. Look honestly at your life. What still requires cutting? What have you tolerated out of familiarity? What weight continues to slow your climb? The courage to eliminate is the courage to win. When you finish cutting what weakens you, what remains is clarity, resolve, and power. With these, you are equipped for victory. Let your final affirmation be simple and unwavering. I remove what weakens me. I keep what strengthens me. My life reflects disciplined choice. In that discipline lies freedom. In that freedom lies momentum. And in that momentum lies the triumph reserved for the man who had the courage to cut. 12 months from now, someone will look at you and hesitate. Not because they doubt you, because they do not recognize you. Reinvention does not require a new name, a new city, or a dramatic announcement. It requires a new internal decree sustained long enough to become visible. And 12 disciplined months are sufficient to alter your identity in the eyes of the world. Yet most men attempt to change in a weekend. They feel inspired on Sunday and exhausted by Thursday. They begin boldly in January and negotiate by March. They desire transformation, but they refuse duration. That is why they remain familiar. You do not reinvent yourself by emotion. You reinvent yourself by method. Imagine dividing the next year into deliberate stages. The first quarter devoted to clarity, writing a definite chief aim so precise it eliminates confusion. The second devoted to conditioning, repeating that aim morning and night until faith replaces doubt. The third devoted to organized action, building habits that align with your new standard. The fourth devoted to persistence, protecting your momentum against temporary defeat. This is not dramatic, it is systematic. Picture an ordinary day in month 4. You rise early not because you feel like it, but because the man you are becoming demands it. You review your aim. You complete your most important task before distraction intrudes. You measure progress weekly. You adjust your plan, but never your purpose. That is how change compounds. Most men attempt to change behavior without changing identity. They say, "I will try harder." But trying is not deciding. When you declare, "I am the type of person who finishes what he begins," and you repeat it daily, your subconscious begins to reorganize your actions to match that sentence. Identity governs outcome. The 12-month method is built upon 4 laws: definiteness, autosuggestion, organized planning, and persistence. Remove one, and the structure weakens. Commit to all 4, and the structure strengthens until it becomes habit. Consider the cost of ignoring this year. Another cycle of repetition. Another 12 months reinforcing the same weaknesses. Another December explaining why change was difficult. Change is not difficult. Inconsistency is. What if you treated the next 365 days as a contract? A binding agreement between who you are and who you intend to become. No retreat, no negotiation with old habits, no allowance for drift. You would begin to feel different within weeks. Your speech would sharpen, your posture would rise, your associates would shift, opportunities would appear, not because the world changed, but because your perception did. Reinvention is invisible at first, then it becomes undeniable. By month 6, discipline feels natural. By month 9, momentum carries you. By month 12, the man who once hesitated has been replaced by one who decides quickly and acts confidently. This is not fantasy. It is law applied consistently. But understand this clearly. You cannot reinvent yourself while entertaining alternatives. If you keep one foot in the old identity, you dilute the new one. Decision must be complete. Write the aim. Speak it daily. Act in harmony with it. Persist beyond discouragement. If you do this for 1 year, you will not merely improve. You will become different. And when others ask how it happened, you will not point to luck or timing. You will point to method. 12 months. That is all it takes to alter your trajectory. 1 year of deliberate thought. 1 year of disciplined speech. 1 year of organized action. 1 year of unwavering persistence. The man who commits to that experiment cannot remain the same. Become different. Begin now. Reinvention does not begin in the marketplace. It does not begin in conversation. It begins in private, with ink and decision. Most men attempt to change themselves through effort alone. They promise to rise earlier. They promise to work harder. They promise to control their temper or increase their income. Yet these promises are not anchored in definition. And what is not defined cannot be directed. If you wish to save 10 years of wandering, you must begin where all permanent transformation begins, with a written decree that governs your next 12 months. The first quarter of this method is not dramatic. It is deliberate. It requires that you sit in silence and determine precisely who you intend to become within 1 year. Not vaguely improved, not slightly adjusted, but definitively altered in character, income, health, or influence. You must write a definite chief aim for the next 12 months, so clear that it leaves no room for interpretation. State the exact result you will achieve. State the exact date. State what you will render in return. The world does not reward wishers. It responds to definiteness backed by organized effort. Edwin C. Barnes did not approach Thomas Edison asking for employment. He approached with a written and burning decision that he would become a partner. That decision preceded opportunity. Likewise, your written decree must precede evidence. Limit yourself to one dominant transformation. Many men attempt to change 10 areas at once and strengthen none. Concentration multiplies force. Scatter weakens it. Decide what, if achieved in 12 months, would alter the direction of your life most dramatically. Write it in exact language. Then design a short statement of identity that matches it. If you intend to double your income, write, "I am the type of man who delivers service of such value that my income doubles by this date." If you intend to strengthen discipline, write, "I finish what I begin and act without delay." These are not slogans. They are commands to the subconscious mind. Read this written decree morning and night, without exception. The repetition begins shaping belief. Belief begins shaping conduct. Conduct produces result. This is law. Remove alternative identities. If you continue to describe yourself as inconsistent, unlucky, or uncertain, you sabotage the decree. The mind cannot obey two masters. Eliminate language that contradicts your written aim. Speak only in harmony with it. Design a weekly review ritual. At the end of each week, measure your progress in writing. Did your actions align with the new identity? Where did you drift? Correction must occur quickly. Drift uncorrected becomes habit, and habit repeated becomes destiny. In these first 3 months, visible change may be small. That is not failure. You are installing foundation. Clarity alone can save a decade. How many years have been lost to vague ambition? How many months dissolved because purpose was negotiable? When your aim is written in ink and read daily, negotiation weakens. You either obey it or betray it. That tension produces growth. Others may not yet notice change, but you will. Your speech will sharpen. You will hesitate less before action. You will decline invitations that do not serve your aim. This is the beginning of reinvention. It is quiet. It is structured. It is firm. And it can compress 10 wandering years into one directed season. The first quarter is authorship. You are writing the man you intend to become. Once written and repeated, the subconscious begins to accept the new image as fact. And when the mind accepts it as fact, behavior reorganizes itself to support it. Reinvention begins not with excitement, but with ink, repetition, and decision sustained daily. After the first 3 months have been devoted to writing your new decree and clarifying your definite chief aim, the next season must be devoted to strengthening belief until it becomes unquestioned. Many men write noble statements in January and abandon them by March because they misunderstand the nature of the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not respond to a single command. It responds to repetition backed by emotion. Therefore, the second quarter of this method is dedicated to conditioning. If you neglect this stage, you may work diligently yet remain internally divided. Division weakens action. Unity strengthens it. You must now treat your written aim as daily instruction. Read it aloud morning and night, not hurriedly, but deliberately. Visualize the end as already achieved. See yourself moving confidently in the identity you described. Feel gratitude in advance. This is not imagination for amusement. It is mental rehearsal. Henry Ford held the vision of a motor car for the masses long before engineers believed it possible. His mental insistence preceded mechanical evidence. Likewise, your internal insistence must precede visible proof. Guard your speech with vigilance. The words you repeat about yourself become commands. If discouragement appears, replace it instantly. Say firmly, "Temporary defeat does not alter my purpose." The law of cosmic habit force ensures that repeated thought hardens into habit. Habit solidifies into character. Character determines destiny. Therefore, repetition during these months is not optional. It is structural. Protect your associations carefully. Doubt spreads quickly among those who entertain it. If companions speak continually of limitation, your belief weakens. Seek those who respect ambition and disciplined effort. If none are present physically, seek them in books and recorded examples. Study the persistence of Lincoln before leadership crowned him. Study the endurance of Edison before recognition arrived. These men were conditioned by repetition of purpose long before applause. During this quarter, you may not see dramatic external change. That is expected. Roots deepen before branches rise. Continue reading your aim without exception. Continue visualizing completion. Continue rejecting negative self-speech. Let this affirmation anchor you. My faith grows stronger each day. Speak it when doubt attempts to return. Within 6 months of steady conditioning, you will notice internal calm replacing hesitation. Decisions will feel less forced. Discipline will require less struggle. Why? Because the subconscious now accepts the new identity as natural. Many men fail here because they grow impatient. They expect immediate transformation and retreat when evidence delays. That retreat dissolves momentum. If you persist in conditioning for the full quarter, belief will strengthen sufficiently to carry you through difficulty. This stage alone can undo years of self-doubt. Imagine how many opportunities were missed because belief faltered. Imagine how many years passed because hesitation delayed decision. 6 disciplined months of repetition can restore what 10 uncertain years eroded. By the end of the second quarter, you will not merely hope to change, you will expect it. And expectation governs action. Action governed by expectation produces result. This is the invisible stage of reinvention. It is quiet, persistent, and powerful. Once belief is anchored, the next movement, organized action, will no longer feel forced. It will feel inevitable. By the time you enter the third quarter of your 12-month campaign, something within you has begun to stabilize. The written decree is no longer foreign. The repetition has softened resistance. Faith has replaced a portion of doubt. Yet belief alone will not complete reinvention. Many men feel inspired internally and mistake that sensation for accomplishment. Inspiration without organized action is pleasant, but it does not alter circumstance. Therefore, months 7 through 9 must be devoted to deliberate construction. This is the season when the invisible identity becomes visible in habit. You must now design your daily schedule in strict alignment with your definite chief aim. Begin each morning by identifying one task that moves the aim forward measurably. Complete that task before distraction intrudes. If your aim concerns income, that task may involve securing new clients or improving service. If it concerns mastery, it may involve study and practice. If it concerns physical discipline, it may involve training without negotiation. The nature of the task matters less than its consistency. Consistency compounds. Disorder dissolves momentum. Many waste years working diligently on activities unrelated to their chief purpose. That scattered effort consumes time without multiplying result. Organized planning eliminates this waste. You must track measurable progress weekly. Write the numbers plainly. Did income rise? Did skill improve? Did discipline strengthen? Numbers do not flatter or deceive. They reveal. When results lag, adjust methods, but never alter the aim. This distinction preserves identity. During this quarter, practice the habit of rendering more service than you are paid for. This principle, though simple, has elevated countless men. The clerk who volunteers for responsibility becomes indispensable. The salesman who studies his territory doubles his earnings without changing location. The associate who solves problems before complaint rises naturally. Others will begin noticing difference in you. They may not understand the source. They will observe steadiness, promptness, clarity in speech. Your posture will reflect decision rather than uncertainty. This visible evidence strengthens belief further. Let this affirmation guide you. I act daily in harmony with my aim.
Speak it before work begins. Eliminate time-wasting habits without apology. Idle conversation, excessive recreation, scattered attention. These drain force. Concentration multiplies it. Remember that 1 year of concentrated effort can compress 10 wandering years. Most men drift through a decade attempting change occasionally. You are now practicing it daily. Consider how many years were lost previously to inconsistency. How many opportunities dissolved because action was postponed. Organized action rescues those lost years by replacing hesitation with execution. Surround yourself with a small mastermind circle if possible. 2 or 3 individuals aligned with disciplined improvement. Mutual accountability strengthens persistence. Share goals openly. Report progress honestly. Correction within such a circle accelerates growth. By month 9, results should begin to appear externally. Income may increase. Skill may sharpen. Health may improve. Even if results are modest, the identity has shifted. You are no longer attempting change. You are practicing it. That difference is permanent. Many men experience visible change briefly and relax prematurely. Do not. This quarter cements habit. Habit repeated long enough becomes automatic. Automatic discipline removes internal struggle. Reinvention at this stage is no longer theory, it is measurable. Others will sense momentum in you. They may hesitate when speaking because they recognize firmness where uncertainty once lived. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. Organized action transforms belief into evidence. Evidence strengthens conviction. Conviction fuels persistence, and persistence carried into the final quarter completes the transformation. The third quarter proves that reinvention is not emotional excitement. It is daily execution aligned with written purpose.
When you enter the final quarter of your 12-month reinvention, you will encounter the most decisive examination of all. Not because the method has failed, but because every permanent transformation is tested before it is secured. Temporary defeat will appear in some form. It may come as financial delay, criticism from others, fatigue, or unexpected complication. At this stage, many men relax or retreat. They assume that visible progress guarantees smooth passage. They forget that persistence is the final law. If you abandon your discipline in month 10, you destroy the compounded effort of the previous 9. Therefore, this final quarter is devoted not to novelty, but to protection. You must protect momentum. The story of the man who abandoned his gold mine 3 feet from the ore is not merely a tale of business error. It is a warning against quitting when success stands nearest. Most transformations collapse just before stabilization. You must expect resistance and greet it calmly. When discouragement appears, return immediately to your written aim. Read it aloud. Reaffirm your identity. Do not negotiate with old habits. Old habits will whisper that you have done enough, that slight retreat will not matter. But retreat hardens quickly into reversal. Let this affirmation anchor your resolve. I persist until success is mine. Speak it with firmness whenever doubt attempts entry. Study the endurance of Abraham Lincoln before he reached national leadership. Defeat followed defeat, yet purpose remained unchanged. He did not measure progress by applause. He measured it by alignment with principle. You must do the same. During this quarter, review weekly progress more carefully than ever. If results decline, increase discipline rather than reduce expectation. Guard enthusiasm deliberately. Enthusiasm does not arise by chance. It is cultivated by reminding yourself why the aim was chosen. Reflect on how far you have come in 12 months. Recall the hesitation that once defined you. Compare it with your present steadiness. This reflection strengthens determination. Others may now notice your transformation more clearly. They may comment on your decisiveness or consistency. Accept such recognition without complacency. Complacency is subtle retreat. Remember that this quarter cements identity permanently. If you endure these final months without surrender, the new habits become natural. What once required effort now requires less strain. Discipline feels ordinary rather than exceptional. That is the sign of reinvention completed. Consider how many years were previously lost because effort collapsed near completion. How many ambitions dissolved in the final stage due to fatigue or fear. Persistence during this quarter rescues not only this year, but perhaps 20 years that might otherwise have been spent repeating unfinished attempts. By month 12, you will not merely have achieved measurable improvement. You will have altered your relationship with difficulty. You will no longer interpret temporary defeat as personal failure. You will interpret it as instruction. That shift alone changes destiny. The fourth quarter is therefore not dramatic. It is protective. It ensures that the identity written in the first quarter, conditioned in the second, and executed in the third, is now secured beyond retreat. Reinvention is complete when persistence becomes automatic. When quitting no longer appears as option, identity has been replaced. And once replaced, it governs every future year. When the 12 months are complete, you must not treat the result as a mere accomplishment. You must recognize it as proof of law. One deliberate year, governed by definiteness, repetition, organized action, and persistence, has altered your identity. You are no longer experimenting with discipline. You are living it. This is where the true reward appears. Most men drift through 10 or 20 years attempting change in scattered intervals. They begin with enthusiasm, stop at resistance, and restart again. That cycle wastes decades. You have broken it. By committing fully for 12 months without retreat, you have compressed what might have required 10 wandering years into one directed season. Consider carefully what has changed. Your speech is firmer. Your decisions arrive more quickly. Your time is guarded. Your associations have shifted toward strength rather than complaint. Income may have increased. Skill may have sharpened. Health may have stabilized. But beyond these visible results lies the greater transformation. You trust yourself. That trust is priceless. A man who trusts his own discipline no longer negotiates with impulse. Others will sense this shift. They may hesitate before addressing you casually because they recognize steadiness where uncertainty once lived. They may seek your counsel. They may observe your habits with quiet admiration. This is not vanity. It is evidence that identity governs perception. Let this affirmation guide your continuation. I no longer drift, I design. Speak it as you review the year. Now you must protect the new identity beyond the 12 months. Reinvention is not a temporary campaign. It is replacement of character. Extend the method into a 3-year design. Refine your aim upward. Increase the scale of your service. Deepen your discipline. What was once difficult will now feel natural. That natural discipline can multiply income, influence, and confidence steadily. Reflect upon how this single year has saved time. Imagine if you had delayed commitment another decade. Imagine if you had continued negotiating with old habits. Those lost years would never return. Instead, you chose method over emotion. You chose duration over excitement. And the result is transformation visible both internally and externally. Some may ask how it occurred. You will answer simply, decision sustained daily. This method can save not only 10 years, but 20 or even 30. Why? Because it eliminates the cycle of starting and stopping. It eliminates drift. It replaces vague ambition with structured action. And once structured action becomes habit, future growth accelerates. The man you were 12 months ago feels distant, not erased, but surpassed. Reinvention is not denial of your past, it is elevation beyond it. You have proven that change is not difficult when method replaces inconsistency. The cost of ignoring this year would have been repetition. The reward of obeying it is redirection, and redirection, once secured, influences every year that follows. Protect it, extend it, teach it if necessary. but never return to drift. One disciplined year has altered your trajectory. Continue applying the same laws, and the next decade will not resemble the last. It will reflect the identity you chose and sustained. Reinvention does not require drama. It requires law applied without retreat. You have applied it. And the compounded identity you now possess will govern not only the next 12 months, but the rest of your life. There are years that pass unnoticed, and there are years that divide a life into before and after. The 12 months you have just completed, if obeyed as instructed, belong to the second category. They are not remarkable because of spectacle. They are remarkable because of structure. You did not rely upon excitement. You relied upon law. And law, when applied consistently, produces results that appear extraordinary only to those who never applied it. Pause and consider what has occurred. You began with ink and decision. You declared a new identity before evidence appeared. You repeated that declaration until your subconscious mind accepted it. You organized your hours around it. You protected it against temporary defeat. And now, at the conclusion of one disciplined year, you stand altered, not by accident, but by design. This is the true meaning of reinvention. It is not escape from the past. It is mastery over the present. It is the deliberate replacement of drift with direction. Most men do not lack intelligence. They lack sustained obedience to a definite plan. They desire change intensely for short periods and abandon it when novelty fades. That pattern is costly. It steals decades quietly. You have interrupted that pattern. You have proven to yourself that 12 consecutive months of applied law can accomplish what 10 scattered years cannot. You have discovered that discipline, once repeated long enough, ceases to feel restrictive. It feels natural. That is the moment identity shifts permanently. Look backward briefly, not with regret, but with clarity. How many ambitions were postponed because belief was weak? How many opportunities dissolved because hesitation delayed action? How many years passed because you were divided internally? Those years are gone, but they need not define you. In one concentrated year, you have recovered time by eliminating drift. Drift is expensive. It disguises itself as comfort. It whispers that tomorrow will provide better conditions. It persuades a man to begin again later. And in that persuasion, entire decades vanish. The 12-month method has exposed drift as the enemy it truly is. You now understand that change is not difficult. Inconsistency is difficult. Division is difficult. Vagueness is difficult. But definiteness sustained daily simplifies effort. When you know precisely who you intend to become and repeat that decree faithfully, action aligns more easily. The greatest transformation this year has produced is internal authority. You now trust your own word. When you say you will act, you act. When you set an aim, you pursue it. When resistance appears, you persist. This trust in your own discipline cannot be purchased. It must be earned through repetition, and once earned, it multiplies every future endeavor. Consider what this means for the next decade. If 1 year of concentrated effort altered your identity, what could 3 years accomplish? What could 5 accomplish? What could 10 deliberate years build when guided by the same 4 laws? Definiteness, repetition, organized planning, and persistence? You have not merely improved, you have established a pattern. Patterns govern destiny more reliably than isolated acts of courage. One bold decision impresses the mind briefly. A year of bold decisions reconditions it permanently. Others have noticed. They may not understand the method. They may attribute your steadiness to maturity, to luck, or to circumstance. But you know the truth. You replaced vague ambition with written command. You replaced emotional enthusiasm with scheduled execution. You replaced quitting with persistence. And the world responded accordingly. This response is not mystical. It is practical. When your speech becomes definite, people treat you differently. When your conduct becomes disciplined, opportunities trust you. When your confidence rises from repetition rather than arrogance, influence grows naturally. Identity governs perception. The man who drifts is overlooked. The man who designs is consulted. There is a further reward that must be acknowledged. Through this year, you have altered your relationship with time. Previously, months may have slipped away unnoticed. Now you measure weeks. You review progress. You correct errors quickly. This habit alone can save 20 years of gradual frustration. Time managed deliberately compounds. Time neglected dissolves. You now understand the power of a contract with yourself. When you treated the 365 days as binding agreement rather than hopeful experiment, you eliminated negotiation with weakness. Negotiation invites retreat. Commitment invites growth. If there is one lesson this year has proven beyond dispute, it is this. Permanence requires duration. A weekend of inspiration cannot compete with 12 months of discipline. Emotion fluctuates. Method endures. And yet, let this warning remain clear. Do not mistake completion of the year for completion of growth. Reinvention is not a single campaign. It is a foundation. The identity you have installed must now be protected. Drift, though weakened, will attempt to return quietly. Complacency whispers more gently than doubt, but it is equally destructive. Guard your habits. Continue reading your aim each morning and night. Refine it upward. Expand its scope carefully. Increase the quality of your service. Surround yourself with associates who respect discipline rather than excuse mediocrity. The momentum you feel now is not fragile, but it must be maintained. Think of the man who finally struck gold after learning from failure. His fortune did not arise from luck alone. It arose from refusal to quit 3 feet from success. Your year has carried you beyond those 3 feet. Do not walk away now that identity has solidified. Extend the method. Design the next 3 years deliberately. If you increased income this year, refine your service further. If you strengthened health, deepen endurance. If you mastered discipline in work, apply it to relationships and leadership. Each area obeys the same law. Definiteness directs, repetition installs, planning executes, persistence protects. You have proven these laws within yourself. That proof is more valuable than any external applause. Reflect also on how this year has influenced those around you. Discipline is contagious when demonstrated consistently. Associates may rise in response to your steadiness. Family members may adopt clearer habits. Even critics may soften when confronted with undeniable progress. Your reinvention has extended beyond you. This is how leadership begins, not with position, but with example. So imagine where you would stand 12 months from now had you ignored this method. Likely you would be similar to who you were, slightly more experienced perhaps, but not transformed. That is the cost of neglecting one decisive year. It is the quiet repetition of familiarity. You chose differently. You invested 1 year with intensity rather than comfort. That investment has yielded not merely results, but trajectory. And trajectory determines destiny. If a man changes direction slightly, yet consistently, the distance between his former life and his future life widens dramatically over time. You have altered direction. Even a small adjustment sustained daily creates vast separation across decades. This is how 1 year saves 30. Not by miracle. By mathematics of habit, there is dignity in knowing you did not wait for better conditions. You did not blame circumstance. You did not postpone responsibility. You began with what you had. That beginning triggered momentum. Momentum triggered confidence. Confidence triggered opportunity. Opportunity favored the prepared mind. This year has also clarified another truth. Discipline is freedom. Many believe discipline restricts enjoyment. In reality, it removes chaos. Chaos consumes energy. Energy reclaimed can be directed toward creation rather than repair. You now expend less effort correcting mistakes and more effort building progress. That shift alone can transform a lifetime. Carry forward this understanding. Reinvention is invisible at first, undeniable at last. During the early months, few believed change would endure. Now the evidence speaks quietly but firmly. Let it continue speaking. If you ever doubt again, review your written records from month 1. Compare your former hesitation with present confidence. Compare your former inconsistency with present steadiness. The contrast will restore conviction. You are no longer attempting to change. You are changed, and change sustained becomes character. Character sustained becomes destiny. The 12-month method was not designed as entertainment. It was designed as structure. Structure liberates potential. Potential, when liberated, alters perception. And altered perception opens doors that were previously invisible. You may discover that goals which once seemed distant now feel attainable. This is not illusion. It is the result of strengthened belief and organized action. The same method that produced one transformation can produce another. But never forget the central lesson. Duration matters. 1 decisive year outweighs 10 distracted ones. If you guard this truth carefully, the remainder of your life will not be measured by vague ambition, but by deliberate accomplishment. Years will no longer pass unnoticed. They will be designed. There will still be temporary defeat. There will still be difficulty. But you no longer interpret difficulty as evidence of inability. You interpret it as invitation to persist. That is maturity, that is mastery, and that is reinvention completed. The man who began this year uncertain has been replaced by one who decides. The man who hesitated has been replaced by one who acts. The man who drifted has been replaced by one who designs. This is not exaggeration. It is law applied consistently. Continue applying it, and let the next 12 months build upon the first, not as repetition of effort, but as elevation of identity. 1 disciplined year has rewritten your future. Protect it, extend it, and never return to drift. Guard it as you would guard a fortune, for in truth it is one. Money may fluctuate, markets may rise and fall, but the disciplined identity you have constructed cannot be taken from you unless you surrender it. Continue choosing definiteness over drift, persistence over retreat, and design over delay, and the years ahead will no longer resemble the years behind you.